Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Tarek, if you're a big Sega fan, today is going to be an absolutely outstanding day for you. Because if you know me and you know the channel, you know I'm a huge Sega fan. It's going to be a big day for me as well. That is because over a year ago, I did a video on Lindbergh Loader, which was a Linux-specific application to be able to play basically every single Sega Lindbergh arcade game on a PC. But up until about 12 hours ago, it was Linux-specific, but now as of today, the tool has been basically redeveloped to work on Windows. And even though I know a decent chunk of you do use Linux as your primary operating system, as far as gaming is concerned, I still know the large majority of my audience and basically gaming in general is going to be on a Windows machine. So now as of today, you're going to be able to basically quote-unquote emulate almost every single arcade game out there on the Sega Lindbergh platform. And just so you know, to be clear, when I use the word emulation, it is the word you understand, but technically these do work on an x86 architecture, so basically it is more of a translation layer. But I will continue to use the word emulation because it's what you guys think of when you think about running software on non-target hardware, which just means hardware that was never meant to run the software in the first place by design. And I will say, in my time testing the new loader, as well as the moderator of my Discord, the Cool Pup, sending me footage from his tests as well, this thing just absolutely works, does exactly what you need it to do, nothing more and nothing less. And considering the Sega Lindbergh has some of the best Sega arcade games ever made, and best games ever made in my opinion, including OutRun 2 SP SDX, which I featured on the channel before, this is absolutely a straight up win-win. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. And even though TechnoParrot does run a decent amount of these games, it is nice to get another option out there so you can play some of the best arcade games ever made. But I want to be clear about something right off the top so you understand what you're getting into. Right now, a graphical user interface is apparently in development, but right now, the Lindbergh loader for Windows is going to be command line argument based. That means you're going to have to run this in a command line with specific arguments that you can get from GitHub to be able to set everything up. Now, it isn't difficult whatsoever. If you pay attention to the directions on GitHub, you will be perfectly fine. But if you really aren't comfortable in a command line prompt environment, then it might be a little bit harder for you, and maybe you want to wait for that graphical user interface. But if you do want to play around with this one, I can't recommend it enough because in my testing, everything just 100% strung together exactly as it needed to be. And that really is a testament to how much work has gone into Lindbergh Loader in itself. And they are even talking about making the software run other hardware that was never part of the Lindbergh nuclear family. If you take a look at the GitHub page here, you'll see that they're planning on adding Namco N2 as well as ES1 support and Rothrill support, so different PC games that were in arcades basically coming to this in a short period of time. And if you take a look down below, you'll see that whole Windows guide there. I tested this last night on Windows 10. I know it works on Windows 11 as well because I tried my laptop. If you have anything older than Windows 10, it's probably time to upgrade. And you'll see here, this was done as of 15 hours ago, or at least when I captured the actual GitHub footage. I probably tested this maybe about 4 hours after it actually released. And just so you know, it is now called Linux Loader, even though I'm referring to it as a Lindbergh Loader, because we're talking about the Sega Lindbergh games today, which are going to be the first batch of games that do run on Windows. And the nice thing is you get an amazing kind of mix-up of genres here. You're going to get arcade racing games, you're going to get light gun games, you're going to get a new Afterburner game, maybe that you've never played before. It really is one of Sega's best platforms in my opinion. And obviously anything that has OutRun 2 on it is going to be one of the best platforms of all time, because that is still, in my opinion, the best arcade racing game ever made. If you leave me a comment down below and you tell me best arcade racing game ever made, I would be curious because it really is fun to actually debate it, and I'm sure there's other Sega titles that could definitely take the crown. But this is just so fun. It is video game preservation. It's why retro gaming is making a comeback. I know it sounds crazy, but these games in my opinion are retro at this point in time. And Ghost Squad here, absolutely a 10 out of 10 vibe. Kind of feels like an unofficial Virtual Cop sequel. It's also going to be the first soundtrack sample because of course we're not just talking about performance or control. We also have to make sure that the audio translates well to Windows. So go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds or so, but come back. I'll explain more how to get this working and why you need to definitely play it today.
Hands in the air! I'm not a terrorist! Whatever you do, don't shoot at the hostages. Hands in the air. I'm not a terrorist. Hands in the air. I'm not Hands a terrorist. In the air.
I'm not a terrorist.
Hands in the air.
I'm not a terrorist.
Stay on guard. Hands in the air. I'm not Hands in the air.
Super fun game, super ridiculous and over the top in all the best Sega ways, and it sounds incredible coming out of Lindbergh Loader, or in this instance Linux Loader. And you'll see here there is an entire list of supported games for Windows, including the revisions of those games, because basically every single one of these games did get revised in some way, shape, or form, and there are different variants of the Lindbergh. So if you're looking to play one of the games, make sure you have the right version, because sometimes one of the revisions will not load where the other one does. But having something like Initial D5 available on Windows is just straight up amazing. Now I can't recommend enough, if you're going to play around with some of these games or you really want to kind of get involved in some fun Initial D, having a wheel and pedal set makes it 100% better than having just a standard controller. And the best thing is Linux Loader has an entire guide as well to set up all of your controls. So again, just make sure you pay attention to everything. And I will definitely update this video when a graphical user interface comes out, because I know that is going to get more people into the Sega party, and I totally understand that the command line might not be where everyone wants to be. But honestly, video game emulation just keeps improving, and again, I know Translation Layer, and there really is a best emulator for every console out there under the sun, because at this point in time, we've gotten so many new games working in 2026, so many new ways to play classic games. It really is just a new golden era of retro gaming, and Lindbergh was definitely popular in arcades, but you're not going to see all of these cabinets anymore. You might see an Initial D5 somewhere at round 1, seeing a House of the Dead 4 is still pretty common out there, although Scarlet Dawn is definitely taking its place in a lot of arcades, but stuff like Afterburner Climax and those titles, not something that I see all the time anymore. Now taking a look at the GitHub page again, there is explicit directions on how to get the Lindbergh Loader INI set up via the command line files, and then how to get your controller set up as well. And I can't stress enough, take your time in reading this and understand what it says. If you try to jump ahead, if you don't pay attention, you are not going to be successful with this one, because it's one of those things. A lot of times in comments people ask how to do something and it's literally written in front of their faces. And I totally get it, I'm guilty of this sometimes too, but just trust me, pay attention to the GitHub directions and you will get all of these games running. Only read half of them and you're going to get 0 running. But moving over to Afterburner Climax, this is an instance in which there's different versions of the game. This one here is just basically the base game, or the non-deluxe cabinet, which is going to run in 4:3, which is a fun aspect ratio to see. There's going to be other versions of the game that are going to be in 16:9, kind of the same way that OutRun 2 has the SP SDX version of the game. And you can definitely calibrate something like a flight stick over to Lindbergh Loader or Linux Loader, and that basically gives you the exact control scheme you would get in the arcades. And it's one of those things, if you love playing games like this, I can't tell you enough, you want a wheel and pedal set, you want a flight stick, so you get as close of an approximation to what the arcade cabinets did as you possibly can. I totally get it, it's not cheap, but honestly, retro gaming, even if you can play the games for free, has never been a cheap hobby, and you know we all love dropping ridiculous amounts of money just to get a slightly better gameplay experience. Let's go into the second soundtrack, because Afterburner Climax sounds incredible and also has one of my favorite non-Sega arcade racing soundtracks of all time, so listen, and I'll be right back with more. And I feel like most of you would not have actually played Afterburner Climax, because it was released as basically a digital-only game for some of the platforms back in the day, but it's been delisted for a long time, at least in my memory. It has never actually come back around, so the best way to play it's going to be something like Lindbergh Loader on your PC. That way you can enjoy the entire thing. And honestly, with light gun games, it's going to be basically the same. You're going to be able to use your mouse as the cursor, or for somebody like me, I use gun for IR, but it'll work with Synth and basically anything else. And something like the House of the Dead 4, just a straight up amazing game that unfortunately never got a physical release, because I own every single other House of the Dead game as a physical copy, but Sega refused to actually put this one to disc, and it seems like to this point in time, Scarlet Dawn is never going to truly come home. So it's one of those things, maybe someday we'll see a House of the Dead 5 or 6, we'll just have to wait and see what happens there, because I guess Scarlet Dawn technically isn't House of the Dead 5, but I've kind of always just called it that. But when you're playing around with Linux Loader on Windows for all of these Lindbergh games, if you go through the directions and pay attention and follow them, you'll be playing every single game on that compatibility list. And the nice thing is it works for Intel, AMD, as well as NVIDIA GPUs. Basically whatever hardware you have on your system, it is going to work. And in my playing around with this and kind of testing it, I wasn't able to find a single game that gave me any hell so long as I configured it correctly. And that is definitely a net win, because video game emulation is video game preservation, and even if it's technically more of a translation layer, it keeps these games alive for all time. And if you want me to do a tutorial on this one, leave me a comment down below, but I'm a little bit leery right now just because I totally understand the overall command line structure with arguments isn't something that everyone loves to deal with, and when there is a graphical user interface, basically the command line will become a non-essential thing. It's kind of like Supermodel, the Sega Model 3 emulator back in the day. It used to just be command line based, and it finally got a graphical user interface, and I don't think anyone would ever go back to the command line from there. Because trust me, I remember my DOS prompts, I know how to do this, but I'd rather just click a mouse button as well. You leave me a comment down below and you tell me what you think about this, and I feel like a lot of people are going to be very excited because it's available today. It costs nothing, it does an incredible job, and it lets you play some of the best Sega video games of all time. And considering the history of Sega is absolutely lousy with amazing arcade games, it really is a situation where everyone's going to win on this one. So big thanks to the devs of the project, big thanks to the Cool Pup, the moderator of my Discord, for helping out with some of the footage captures. I can make sure I got this video out in under 24 hours. Big thanks to Sega for making OutRun 2 SP SDX. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.